Welcome to The Explainer. Get ready because we're about to completely reframe what you think you know about creatine. For decades, this stuff has been boxed into a very specific, kind of stubborn stereotype, right? You picture those giant, dusty tubs sitting in a gym locker room, exclusively meant for muscle-bound bodybuilders and sprinters chasing a physical peak. But we're digging into some truly groundbreaking source material today that completely shatters that mold. We're moving way away from the weight room and placing creatine right into the very center of cognitive function, neurology, and overall human health. We're going to look closely at the science, the biological mechanisms, the everyday applications, and the surprisingly profound truths that decades of rigorous research have uncovered.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Does a healthy brain actually need creatine? It's a fundamental opening question posed directly by our source material today, and it instantly hooks you. I mean, you might logically assume that a nutrient famous for building cellular energy, specifically replenishing ATP, which is basically the primary energy currency of our cells, is automatically a necessary powerhouse for a healthy brain. After all, the human brain consumes a massive 20% of our body's total energy, despite only making up about 2% of our weight. The cognitive demand is staggering. But the research points to a surprisingly nuanced answer that challenges our most basic assumptions about supplementation. When we compare a perfectly healthy state to a stressed state, the science reveals something genuinely fascinating. Honestly, a healthy, unstressed brain, it probably doesn't need any extra creatine at all. It naturally synthesizes what it needs and maintains a steady baseline of energy, just humming along perfectly fine on its own. But introduce metabolic stress, and the paradigm completely shifts. Metabolic stress essentially means the brain's energy demands are rapidly outpacing its supply, leading to a dangerous depletion of that cellular ATP we just talked about. Under this intense metabolic load, the brain is struggling to keep up. It desperately needs a rescue. And that is exactly when creatine steps up, actually crossing the blood-brain barrier to serve as an unexpected, absolutely vital energy reserve.
And these real-world examples brilliantly illustrate exactly what we mean by a metabolically stressed environment. We're talking about sleep deprivation, night shift workers completely throwing off their natural circadian rhythms, or, university students pulling all-nighters to cram for a massive midterm. These aren't extreme rare medical conditions, these are everyday people in incredibly common modern-day situations. The source reveals that almost all of us fall into this stressed environment at some point. When you're operating on a severe lack of sleep, your brain is forced to work overtime, rapidly burning through its energy stores. Your normally healthy brain becomes metabolically stressed. This is precisely where creatine comes to the rescue, providing a crucial secondary fuel source. In fact, the data notes that the more stressed the brain is, the higher the dose of creatine required to provide that much-needed cognitive rescue.
Now, you might be sitting there asking, okay, who is making these bold claims about brain metabolism, and can we actually trust them? Well, consider this number, 120 plus. The expert featured in our source material has personally published over 120 peer-reviewed papers on creatine alone. Let that sink in. This establishes an absolute mountain of undeniable authority and deep, rigorous scientific investigation. We aren't just looking at a passing internet trend here or a fitness influencer's latest sponsored post. We're looking at a lifetime of focused clinical expertise. When someone dedicates decades of their life to studying the microscopic interactions of a single biological compound, their insights into how it affects our neurochemistry carry incredible weight. Building directly on that mountain of authority, this research team has conducted roughly 30 to 40 dedicated lab studies exhaustively looking for the limits of who can and cannot safely use this nutrient. They've tested different populations, different age groups, different dosages, really trying to find the breaking point. And the ultimate conclusion? They literally cannot find anybody who can't or shouldn't take creatine. The safety profile established by these extensive lab studies confidently confirms that practically everyone can take it. It's incredibly well tolerated across the board, completely bypassing the usual gastrointestinal or systemic issues that are often associated with heavy supplementation. That makes it one of the safest, widely studied compounds on the market today.
So, the crucial point here is that we really need to expand our scope far beyond those traditional bodybuilding stereotypes, because when taken at recommended clinical dosages, creatine offers some profound and honestly surprising medical hope. The source material points to potential anti-cancer properties, where the supplement might actually help fortify immune cells specifically tasked with fighting tumor growth by keeping their energy levels high. It's also being highly utilized to speed up physical rehabilitation, preventing severe muscle atrophy when patients are bedridden. And perhaps most incredibly, there is genuine hope surrounding its potential applications in Alzheimer's research, exploring whether bolstering the brain's energy reserves can protect neurons from degenerative decay. This stuff is actively being investigated as a powerful tool for serious life-altering medical conditions.
But what about much younger populations? It's totally natural to wonder if something so powerful is safe for children. Well, let's shift our focus to the specific baseline requirement, 1 gram. According to the current comprehensive body of evidence from our source, this is the precise minimal amount suggested for kids. Children should be getting at least 1 gram of creatine per day to adequately support their rapidly developing bodies and minds. While adults might require significantly more to, say, saturate their muscles or rescue a stressed brain, that 1 gram threshold is the absolute sweet spot for ensuring a growing child has the cellular energy required for fundamental development.
So why exactly do kids need that daily gram? Obviously, in children, the primary goals aren't about building massive biceps or hitting personal records on the track. The research points to 2 vital developmental milestones: bone health optimization and proper muscle development. Think about it. Bone tissue is incredibly metabolically active. It's constantly turning over, breaking down, and rebuilding itself as a child grows. And that constant cellular turnover? It requires massive amounts of ATP energy. Getting that baseline of 1 gram a day safely and effectively supports this energetic demand, ensuring bones grow dense and strong. It really highlights just how accessible, fundamental, and universally beneficial this nutrient is across our entire lifespan, starting right from our very earliest years.
Let's move on and see how this all builds across history. We can actually trace this entire story all the way back to 1832, the year creatine was first discovered by a French chemist. And for the longest time after that, it was considered entirely boring. I mean, it was just a standard, unremarkable biological compound found in meat. But look at where we are today. We're uncovering profound neurological and physical benefits that the early scientific community never, ever could have anticipated. We're even exploring entirely new protocols like microdosing, taking very small, frequent amounts throughout the day to maintain steady blood levels and extract really specific cognitive advantages without overwhelming the system. It's an unbelievable historical pivot, right? Going from a mundane chemical curiosity to a verified health powerhouse.
Of course, seeing all these incredible historical breakthroughs and medical benefits naturally leads us into a very practical application, the dosing dilemma. How much do you actually need to take on a daily basis to see these effects? The source material acknowledges that this is a surprisingly complex puzzle for a lot of people. You can't just guess. You have to figure out how to balance your daily creatine intake with your overall nutrition, your specific protein consumption, your weight training frequency, and, of course, the cognitive demands of your lifestyle. It's the central question for anyone looking to incorporate this nutrient effectively, and finding that perfect personal dosage is totally key to unlocking its full potential. But wait, before we can fully figure out that dosing protocol, we have to clear the air. We need to aggressively tackle the misinformation out there. Our source material outlines 5 major myths surrounding creatine, but we're going to look at the absolute most infamous one right now. The enduring idea that creatine causes hair loss. This specific fear stems from a single, heavily debated older study that suggested a link to increased DHT levels. And let me tell you, it has been floating around internet forums and gym locker rooms for years. That single rumor has deterred countless people from experiencing the immense cognitive, physical, and medical benefits we've just discussed, completely scaring them away from a perfectly safe supplement.
Now, what's really interesting is how our expert from the source tackles this specific myth head-on. He simply jokes, "I was going bald before I started taking creatine." I love that. It's a brilliant self-deprecating moment delivered directly from the researcher who has exhaustively studied this compound for decades. By using this tasteful humor, he completely bursts the bubble on the hair loss panic. When we actually look at the broader modern consensus of rigorous studies, the science simply does not support the fear that creatine makes your hair fall out. The evidence connecting it to baldness just isn't there, which means we can finally safely put that persistent myth to rest for good.
So, bring it all together, we arrive at a pretty vital question. Are you still feeding your stressed brain outdated myths, or are you ready to rescue it? We've seen today how the entire paradigm has shifted. We've moved far, far past a boring discovery in 1832 to unveil a profound, highly researched nutritional tool, one that rescues metabolically stressed brains battling sleep deprivation, aids in critical medical rehabilitation, and safely supports the intricate bone development of growing children. The sheer volume of evidence is literally undeniable. It is a fascinating, multi-purpose nutrient that absolutely deserves a second look. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this deeper dive into the science leaves you eager to explore how creatine might perfectly fit into your own daily life.